Let me ask you a question. Have you ever looked back on a painful moment in your life and said to yourself, maybe that had to happen? Maybe there was a reason they had to go through that that breakup, that heartbreak. What if I told you that the most powerful tool you have isn't money, it's not your net worth, it's not your friends, it's not your education, it's your perspective. Because the truth is, there are only two factors in life: contributing factors, what happens around you, and determining factors, what you decide you're going to do with it. See, Joseph in the Bible, he was betrayed, he was abandoned, he was falsely accused, he was imprisoned, but he still ended up running the most powerful nation in the world. How? Because he never let the circumstance define his calling. He never let the pit rob him of the promise. Listen, your story might be messy right now. It might be painful. You might be going through a health battle or a relationship breakdown, or you lose a job. Me, I'm in a wheelchair, but I haven't let this define me. Why? Because I've decided I'm not going to assign a negative meaning to this. I'm going to assign a positive, and it's going to serve me. It's going to help me project me into my future. Today, in this video, we're going to talk about the power of perspective. I'm going to show you what the enemy meant for evil, God meant for good. So let's have a look at Joseph and how he did it in his life. Let's jump in. Here's what Joseph said to his brothers. Ye thought evil against me, but God meant it unto good. Here, I want to give you a bit of context, a bit of background about what Joseph went through and how he got to this conclusion. So Joseph was the favourite of his father. It says, when his brethren saw that their father loved him more than all his other brethren, they hated him. Parents, can I give you some advice? Don't have favourites. Love all your children the same, as equals. They have different gifts, they have different personalities, they have different talents, but you need to love them all the same. Otherwise, you're going to have unbrotherly love. See, Joseph had a dream. His dream was that his mother and father and all his brothers were going to bow down and worship him. Now, that stirred up a bit of anger for his brothers. And this is what it says. It says, and when his brothers saw, and Joseph dreamed a dream and told his brethren, and they hated him yet the more. So they hated him first because he was his father's favourite, and then they hated him more because he had a dream. Be careful who you share your dreams with. Then one day his father sent him out to go check on his brothers, and when they saw him coming, they plotted to kill him. Now, I'm the youngest of 4 siblings. I've got 2 sisters and a brother. I was probably the most annoying. Don't tell them that. Shh, it's a secret between us. But we grew up. We had lots of fun. But I can't think of a time when my brothers and sisters plotted to kill me. Yes, they would have picked on me and annoyed me, and I probably picked on and annoyed them too. But for me, we had disagreements, we had fights, but I can't think of a time when I plotted to kill my brothers or sisters or brothers. That is next level. But one of his brothers came to his senses and said, let's not kill him, let's throw him into a pit. So they beat him up and threw him into a pit. Now, how big was the pit? It was deep enough that he couldn't get out of it. So it must have been a pretty deep pit. Then they sold him into slavery. He was taken by the Midianites to Egypt and sold to Potiphar. Potiphar was a man in Egypt, and he grabbed him as a slave. He paid money for him. And he was such a good slave, Joseph was so diligent, no matter where he found himself, he was so diligent that he worked himself up in the ranks, and he was second in charge in Potiphar's house. Now, his wife, Potiphar's wife, saw him and wanted to take advantage of him, so she threw herself at him. And Joseph was like, you're the one thing that I'm not allowed to touch. I can look after all this house, but I'm not going to touch you. So he ran away. And Potiphar's wife accused Joseph of trying to rape him. She screamed to her husband, honey, this Jew you brought, this slave, he's coming and he's tried to rape me. Now, this is how the story goes. And in those days, if a slave tried to rape a woman, Potiphar owned Joseph. He could have killed him. Unfortunately, lucky for Joseph, Potiphar knew who his wife was. He probably would have heard his mother warn him about his wife. So to save face, to do what's right for the community, he threw him into prison. Then he was in prison, and he made his way all the way to the top of the ranks. Now, just stop for a second. Prison isn't what we see today. Prison isn't a jail with a running water, a toilet, and a TV. No, in those days, prison was a dungeon. It was a cave. It was a pit. Wouldn't have been very nice at all. However, he worked his way up in the prison, and when some of the king's servants got into prison, he interpreted their dreams and said one's going to pass away and one's going to be promoted back to his office. Then that one forgot about him. And one day when Pharaoh had a dream, he said, "Hang on a second, I remember when I was in jail, this young man in jail interpreted my dream and he was correct." So Pharaoh said, "Bring me the man." And he interpreted Pharaoh's dream and told him that there's going to be 7 years of great harvest and then 7 years of famine. And Pharaoh promoted him from the prison, to the prince. He was the prime minister. He was second in charge of the whole nation. And then his brothers, during the famine, his brothers came up looking for food. And when he revealed himself to him, they thought that he was going to kill them. They thought that what they did was so terrible, and he was the most powerful man in the nation, apart from Pharaoh, and they thought he was just going to annihilate them. But this is his response. "Ye thought evil against me." So they plotted, they planned, they were wanting to do evil, but God meant it unto good. God's plan, God's purpose was, you plan to harm me, you plan to hurt me, you plan to push me down and squash me and get rid of my dreams. But God had a bigger plan. God knew a bigger perspective about what was going to happen. Now, after all that, Joseph welcomed them, he cried, he hugged them, he blessed them, and he said, "Bring the whole family up." So they went back and they brought the whole family. There was about 70 of them. They came into Egypt. And Pharaoh said, "Bring me your father." And so Joseph brought him his father. And this was the conversation they had. Pharaoh said unto Jacob, I'm reading here, "How old art thou?" And Jacob said unto Pharaoh, The days of the years of my pilgrimage are 130 years. Oof, that's pretty good. Me, I'm almost 40. So 40 times, I'm not even a third of the way yet. I'm only less than a third to 130 years. That'll be a pretty good run, wouldn't it? If I made it to 130 years. Wow. However, this is what he says. "Few and evil are the days of my pilgrimage." So he's lived 130 years. He's lost his son. He thought he was dead for probably about 15 years. He's got him back. Joseph says, what you thought for evil, God had plans for good. And Jacob's perspective, same experience, same situation, and he said, "Few and evil are the days of my pilgrimage." That's a very different perspective. That flips the script. What perspective are you looking at life? How are you seeing the circumstances that you are in? In life, there are only two factors. How many? Say two. Here they are. Two factors in life. There are contributing factors and there are determining factors. So, what's a contributing factor? A contributing factor is what happens around you. This is outside of your control. This is life. This is the government. This is maybe your upbringing. This is the education that you experience. This is your friends, your family. This is everything that happens outside of your control. You can't control those things. This is just life. It can be good, bad, or indifferent, but this is just what it is, what happens around you. And number 2 is determining factors. What you, that's right, what you decide to do with it. You're in control. Joseph, he had so many contributing factors. He was thrown in the pit. He was thrown in the prison. But he decided that he's not going to let the contributing factors, the things that are happening around him, outside of him, life itself, to determine his character, what he's going to do, how he's going to be honouring to God. And remember how we started? What you meant for evil, God meant for good. He took what happened and he decided what he's going to do with it. Me, I broke my neck when I was 20. Now, I don't want you to go, woe is me, everything like that. I'm in a wheelchair. I can't use my hand properly. I can't use my legs at all. They don't work. I have to use a wheelchair to get around. I have to lift myself and carry myself. But I'm not going to let the contributing factor, the fact that life happened, sin entered the world and contributed, I'm not going to let that determine what I'm going to do with my life. Everyone assigns a meaning to what happens in their life. And it may be good, it may be bad. Everything in life, just because it feels good doesn't mean it's good. Just because it feels bad doesn't mean it's bad. Only hindsight, actually only really God, knows whether it's good or bad. With your life's circumstances, I'm not trying to belittle it, I'm not trying to make small. I understand that we've all gone through stuff. We've all gone through hard things. But you can decide what you're going to do with it. That's up to you. The ball is in your court. It's in how you are going to decide how you do it. We are all going to assign a meaning to the contributing factors. We're going to assign a meaning to that. We're going to say, this happened to me. But you can decide, you can determine how that applies to your life. I could decide that I could assign a meaning to me being in a wheelchair, me not being able to use my legs and my arms properly, that woe is me. Oh, I'm a victim. I can't do anything in my life. Or I can decide what I'm going to do with it. I'm going to use it. I'm going to live my life. I'm going to get out there and understand that God ordained me to be in a wheelchair, and I can use that as a platform. I can use what I've been given, the gifts, the talents, the circumstances, the life that happens, the contributing factors, and use that to honour God, to bring God glory, to glorify Him and how great He is. That's my job. That's your job. So, what are you going to do? What are you going to decide? How are you going to decide to not let the contributing factors determine your future, but you're going to let the determining factors, you're going to decide what you're going to do, what's going to move the needle in your favour, and don't just let life happen, but make it impact in your sphere, in the people you influence. So I hope this video blesses you, and I can't wait to see you on the next video.